Hey guys, Huzzy here, bringing you another video. Now this is the overview video of Lucian, the new champion, and I'm thinking I'm going to do a kind of overview for every single new champion that comes out. And now these overviews are going to be, well, I don't want to say guides because obviously I'm not an expert at the champion. I've played, three odd games in ranked with him, and I've won all three, and I have a very good understanding of the champion and how he works and that type of thing. So my advice, I would say, would be quite solid. But if you have found something else that works, I can totally understand that you'll take that more than mine. But yeah, this is just for the average person that doesn't know a lot about Lucian. Now, what will these overviews include? These will include um, general gameplay of him. How do you play the champion very well? Items, runes, masteries, and any updates that I think Riot should do. So if they should get nerfed if it's a new champion, or if they should get buffed. So in this one, we'll be going over Lucian's ultimate, how I think that could be changed, and then the final thing we're going to kind of look at, where do I think he's going to stand when it comes to competitive play? Do I think he's going to get picked? Do I think he's just going to be one of them people that just stay out the back and don't really like a Quinn? So yeah, this is kind of going to be one of these videos. It's going to be around 10 minutes long, that type of thing. So hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, Lucian's quite fun to play. So general gameplay of Lucian. Lucian is a really good brawling DPS in the game. Now, while I run to lane in this clip, I'm just going to explain a couple things that you can do with him. The biggest thing with Lucian you have to make sure you do is be able to line up with your Qs and hit as many people as possible. That is probably the biggest thing involved with the champion. And at the start, it may be a bit tricky, but then you really get used to it. It's basically the best way I can describe it. Think of a Caitlyn's Q, which is called Piltover, hitting one of those, but you have to aim it, but it continues to go through a target. That's basically what it is. And yeah, he's very mobile. Obviously, I just dodged the Blitzcrank, if you can see in the clip. And yeah, basically, you just have to play him like a standard AD carry, but just with a bit more, I'd say, actually clunky mechanics. He's got actually aimed abilities, where quite a lot of champions don't have aimed abilities. So the upcoming fight, you're going to see me do as much as I can as a Lucian. So I just poke her down. We're going for the engage here. I flash onto her, and she manages to get away. So right now, I'm thinking a lot of people would think Ashe is safe, but she's not. If I line up the Q, bam, line it up, and she's dead. That was basically on purpose. I was holding the Q to do that, and that's kind of the things you have to do on Lucian to succeed. So another clip coming up now to show off some things on Lucian. Now, one thing I want to make apparent is Lucian is a lane bully. He's amazing at poking people through waves, and occasionally getting through a shot, because his attack animation is actually really nice when you get used to it. You can fire off a little auto attack every now and then, and yeah, you can just pick up generally really sneaky kills when people don't actually expect it. Now, I would actually recommend running Nami with Lucian, as their combo is actually really, really good. It gives Lucian the slow when Nami gives him the buff, and just general more CC that Lucian needs, because he has no CC himself. So yeah, he's a very good lane bully. I did in my commentary kind of say he was the new Draven. That might be going a bit too far, but he is a very good lane bully. He's, if you, I would like to see actually a Draven versus a Lucian lane. Maybe Lucian would actually win the lane right now, but maybe the old Draven could have taken him on. So it would be interesting to see still. So we're thinking of getting a little engage on there. Udyr is actually bot lane. Now here's where you're going to see a mechanic that I love with Lucian. Firing your ultimate back, basically just deterring people, is one of the best things you can do as a Lucian, to be honest, and it's really satisfying. We're still moving in for some kills, Malphite TPs, so we've held them off 3v2 for quite some time, and yeah, pretty damn good. That was a very good fight, Malphite good reactions, but nonetheless, that was Lucian managing to do damage while running back. While they're running at us, you can do constant damage. Not many champions in the game can do that. I think Lucian might even be the only one. So that's a really good mechanic that Lucian can do. Now, again, with Lucian's ultimate, he is known for not having a very good ultimate, but it does have its uses. Obviously, it has extreme range, so basically you can stay out of harm's way when a team fight happens. Now, you're about to see in the upcoming clip that, this is actually a pretty good technique to do. So I'm just staying relatively at the back. I do get Orianna ulted, but now I'm right at the back of the team fight, throw my ult in there. I'm actually quite safe right now, and I actually managed to pick up a kill with my ultimate, which, yeah, is always great. I'm trying to pick up the kill for the leads, and I managed to pick up a double kill. So overall, pretty good team fight. So as I said, Lucian is great for basically just staying out a team fight and just ulting in like an MF, like anything like that, because it will hit the first target it hits. So runes and masteries. Lucian is not really different than any other champion in the way that you build him masteries and runes wise. These are my runes. Now you can see the summary here, but I will quickly go over that. It's 8 attack damage reds with 1 crit red, 2 lifesteal quints with 1 AD quint, armor yellows and MR blues. I think this is just the standard AD page that I pretty much use on every single one of my AD carries. People ask why do I run the 1 crit red. Basically, it gives you a little bit more crit possible, and if you get an early crit off on somebody, it really does give you an advantage in lane, especially if you're playing something like a Vayne or a lane bully or even a Caitlyn, because if you get advantage on a Caitlyn, you're only going to do more. Now, masteries are again pretty standard. Now, I know people do different things on Lucian, but I'm going to quickly go over what I take on myself. Now, I just do the standard 2190, which gives him enough damage. Now, as you notice, I do not take Havoc because in all situations, well, I'd say Havoc is a good spell maybe for an AP, but I don't actually think it's that great for AD carries. It gives you 2% increased damage at maximum rank. And if you actually work out how much 2% does, it's really, really small. It's tiny. So you can get other points in different places. Getting the tower damage I really like because I like getting early towers. And then obviously having the 9 in defense basically allows you to just be tanky because yes, your range and your poke is very good, but if you get engaged on, you don't have much to get away if it stuns. You do if it slows, but if you're getting stunned up, you're sure you can try and dodge them with your E, but if you get caught out, you are pretty damn squishy if you don't take, the full 9 in defense. Now, I know some people are running 2193 on Lucian, which is okay for those of you who aren't really careful with your mana. If you like spamming abilities a lot, then yeah, you can take 3 in meditation to help you with mana regen, taking less in defense. But as I said, I wouldn't recommend it myself because it will, in a way, it increases your lane pressure if you can spam your abilities more. But if you get engaged on, you're going to be really, really squishy and you're probably going to die. So these are my runes and masteries on Lucian. So this is my first item build. There's going to be 2 that I'm going to go over, and the first one goes Bork, Zephyr, Last Whisper, or IE, or Bloodthirster, depending, and then the last one being Defense. Now, some people may have a bit of their own ideas when it comes to builds, and that's completely fine. A new champion has to be theory crafted and see what his best build is. But Bork right now is his best friend. It is, I think, the best item in the game for him right now, as it does allow him to have a lot more pressure. It allows him to have that auto attack that scales with his ultimate. So I would say Bork is the best item for Lucian right now. Second item, this is where people may go, but Zephyr. Zephyr is actually underrated in the way that it's not built as much as I think it should be. A lot of people just build it for their 6th item to replace their boots if it gets to that stage in the game. But a lot of people don't realize how much lane pressure a Zephyr gives you. Now, it'll be a bit, I don't know if people would actually get to Zephyr from the lane phase, but if you're doing really well, you will. And you have to remember, Zephyr gives you 35 tenacity, gives you attack damage, and it gives you CDR. It's a great item to have on Lucian. Having it gives him more poke, more pressure, allows him to dodge more with his E, and yeah, just general attack damage scaling up with his ultimate. Now, the third slot is purely situational how well you're doing. Last Whisper if you're not doing amazing, but you still need some damage that will scale with Armor Pen. And then either IE or Bloodthirster. I'd say get IE if you're doing fantastic, and then get maybe Bloodthirster if you're doing good, but you're not doing bad, you're not doing amazing. And obviously you have to build another one of these. So Last Whisper if they have armor. If they don't have a lot of armor, then, IE or Bloodthirster or whatever, the one you didn't build. Now, the last slot is pretty damn simple. It's just a defense item. Right now, I would say Frozen Mallet is good on him, or a GA, or a Randuin's. They're all really good options for a Lucian. So yeah, that's item build number 1. It's the one I generally would use. But yeah, it's still theory crafting mode. So if you have your own, that's fine. But item build number 2 coming up now. So this is item build number 2, and probably people say this more conventional. So obviously, I will not mention starting items like Doran's Blade, because that's kind of obvious. Getting as many as you need to have lane pressure, probably up to 2 is the maximum. And then obviously having the tier 2 boots in there. Somewhere, they don't have to be first, they're just throughout the build. These are just the best items I find in the right order. So Bloodthirster will just allow you to have a lot of AD early on, which will basically allow you to have more damage when a dragon fight comes in the early game. After that, you can get a Zephyr or PD, basically your preference. You could even have a static Shiv in this slot, but my preference is Zephyr in this slot. But if you prefer Shiv for split pushing, that's fine. And then the next slot is basically up to you. Now, I'll actually say the next two slots are up to you. All three of these items, Last Whisper, Eye Edge, and Balk, basically can all fit into each other. So you could get a Last Whisper and a Balk, you could get a Last Whisper and IE, you could skip out the Balk. It's totally up to you, but my recommendation would be a Last Whisper with a Balk. Gives you the armor pen and then gives you the stacking 5% damage onto that item, per health, whatever. It is a really good item. And then the final one is defense. Now this is a optional, I want to add. You don't have to get a defense item, only get it if you need it. And if you don't need it, then you could fit an IE in there and have even more damage. So anyway, they're my Lucian builds. This is what I find quite good. And, you know, I've watched streams on that, and these are kind of the items people are building. So, possible changes. This is the section where either if a new champion is really OP, I'll say what they could do to basically balance it, and if they need to get a buff, then what I'll say kind of what they should do in order to do that. Now, the biggest thing with Lucian, I think he's very balanced with his Q, W, and E. They're all great. They work very well, and I would say the damage scaling is completely fine. The problem with Lucian is his ultimate is really lackluster. Now, some people will say that it's easy to dodge. I would argue with that because if you're actually a good player, you actually hit it more than you'll miss. Because it's generally quite easy to hit. And if you are not finding this, maybe you just need a little bit more practice on Lucian. But if you look at my commentary or any of these general clips that have the ult involved, I'm pretty much hitting more than 75% of the ultimate on somebody. And that's more than enough to do damage, but that's the problem. The ultimate itself does very little damage, and that leads to Lucian being really, well, what's the word? Discouraging in the way that when you hit 6 on any AD carry, if you're thinking Ezreal, you're thinking Vayne, Graves, you're thinking your damage output just went boom. You're thinking that I can kill these guys in lane now. I've got my ultimate, it gives me more pressure. But with Lucian, it doesn't give him more pressure. It basically, at the moment, gives him better disengage. And what I mean by that is, while you're getting ganked, you'll be running backwards. Now, Lucian is the only champion in the game right now that can fire a direct line at them constantly while people are running at him, which is great. I love that part of his ultimate. You can still do constant damage while people are running after you, but it still does no damage. Now, what things could Riot do to make this better? Well, my biggest things would be, well, I have a few ideas. One being a let the ultimate crit. And now they'll have to balance this. I don't know how they're going to do it, but this is one idea I had. Because if you think of Master Yi's Q, that crits. So they do have spells that crit. So I think that would actually help his ultimate quite a bit. Because on Lucian, you build a lot of attack damage. He scales very well with attack damage. And yeah, having them early static Shiv, if you're going that way, or early PD, as well as other items, would actually help his ultimate quite a lot with the crit involved. Now, other things you could do, and I think the most viable one that they should actually really consider would be making that Muramana works on his ultimate. Every single hit, it does the damage from Muramana. Now, why do you say this? Why do I think it is? Basically because obviously Lucian's mana costs are extremely high, and it makes you, sure you're a lane bully, but you only can bully to a certain extent, which isn't great. You know, you want to be able to bully people as much as you can on a lane bully. Think of Draven. You can constantly have your Q just staying up and throwing at people, which is arguable that it's a bit strong on a Draven or what he used to be. But if Muramana could work on Lucian's ult, it would allow him to build tier, which in return would give him a better laning phase and actually a better late game because the ultimate would scale with the Muramana. So I think that's actually the best idea that they could do. Now, other things they could do, they could just generally increase the damage on it, which is the easiest way to do. Now, some people have been saying, you know, they should change the way it fires, you know, not have it locked in one direction. But honestly, that's fine. You can actually be a really good Lucian right now. I've won my lane in every single game I've played with him. And his ultimate isn't hard to hit. It is really easy to hit. People say, yeah, people can flash out of it. Sure, they can flash out a bit, but they can flash out of anything. People are forgetting that any like think of MF Salt. People don't say MF Salt is bad, but it's pretty much just the same thing. MF is locked in one place. Sure, it has a bigger AoE cone, but she can't move around, up and down to try and target people. People can easily flash out of MFO, and that's it. Where with Lucian, he can E into the right way, so people are still getting hit. I think he can flash, and it continues to go off. So Lucian ult is really easy to hit, or easier than people think. So yeah, that's pretty much my ideas of how they could kind of tinker with Lucian in the way to make him a lot more viable. So this is the section where I talk about when a new champion comes out. Do I think they'll be, shown or played in competitive play? And when I say competitive, I mean on the main stage of LCS, OGN, that type of thing. Now, as it stands right now, I'm going to flat out say I do not think we're going to see Lucian if he does not get changed. Purely and simple, he does not do enough damage with his ultimate. It's a very good ultimate. I really enjoy using it, but as I've said throughout the video, it needs to be changed to make him more viable. When it comes to solo queue and that type of thing, he will be used. And basically, he will be used because he's one of the most fun AD carries to play right now. He's extremely fun. He has high mobility. He has poke. He's very good fun to play. So you will see him in solo queue. But as I said, right now, I do not see him being used. That being said, if his ultimate does get changed, I think we will see him. And I think we'll see him versus the Ashe Zyra comp that Cloud9 love to run. As Ashe and Zyra really heavily rely on landing the Ashe arrow into the Zyra, and that basically allows them to do a lot of damage. Now, one thing a Lucian can do, he can flash the arrow, which I didn't do in that clip just now, but you can flash the arrow and you can basically E the slow from Ashe, or you could dodge the vines from Zyra. He's a very good champion against that comp, especially also he's good against a Blitzcrank because you can just dodge all his hooks with your E. So yeah, that's generally what I feel about Lucian in competitive play. So I quickly want to say thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and all that type of thing. As I said before I made this video in a couple of comments, it won't be a guide as it hasn't been. It's basically just an overview for the champion. About 10 minutes long. I hope I've kept to that time. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I thought it was okay. Just giving you examples of builds, his strengths, weaknesses, and where do I think he's going to stand in competitive. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.